Hey, this is Gilbert S with the Unnamed Game Co.
This is Jordan T with Zone Fighter Games.
Um, I have now got my hoodie on. uh, if you're wondering at home, and you probably, if you pay attention, or if you're the dog at home that watches us all the time, yes, we are wearing the same outfit because we all record this on one single day.
And also, who's a good boy? You're a good boy.
You're a good boy. Yes, you are. The running joke is that there is a dog that watches our show, and they're the only one that watches our shows. So we want to really thank you because you're a good boy. You're a good boy. It's even in the interviews. If you listen to the interviews, I always mention. So for the owner who left the video on for their dog, thank you. Hello, puppy.
Are your boy?
So last episode, which I don't know if it recorded properly the audio, so we may end up having to record that episode.
We'll find out.
We'll find this out later. Oh darn.
Yeah.
We're currently in the 4th week of May. Gosh knows what the world is looking like. Maybe we're in the apocalypse right now, and this video is going out, and we're like, "Hey, apocalypse, what's going on, apocalypse?"
Maybe we're in a Mad Max style thing where dice is now money, and I'm rich.
Or we're in a sort of post-apocalyptic world where we now have to roll for every decision, and magic has sort of happened, and every dice roll that we do, everything we do in our life has to be dice rolled. And gosh darn it, it could get crazy.
I kind of want that.
Wouldn't that just be, would that be a scary world to live in or a wonderful world to live in?
I think certain jobs would become like too much of a thing to risk the nat one on, you know? Like, I'm gonna be a pilot, I'm gonna land the plane.
Well, you remember you have a modifier score, so I imagine you have this sort of modifier that can keep you safe. But yes,
True. Yeah. It's well, like training can get you around that nat one.
You'll need to have a secondary pilot on deck just in case you nat one it. Like, I imagine that you have to have multiple people, like the pilot will roll, and then if he rolls the 1, he has to be like, I'm off, I can't fly. Like, yeah, I'm done. And
real life gets advantage rules, so if you have a co-pilot, you get to roll twice.
Yeah, so you get a, but like if you botch it, you have to look at each other and just go like, I guess we're dying.
Yeah, like I'm off this week, I guess.
Yeah, like yeah, but like if honestly, like if that was if dice rolling was like, if everything was going to be based off of real life on dice rolling, I would totally be like, I'm gonna go shoot my shots. I'm just gonna be like,
yeah, worst comes to worst, you roll a 1 and you get told no.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, I'm just gonna go up to like very, very like rich people and just be like, can I have $1 million? And then just roll. And then I'll be like, oh, I botched. Like, I'll be rolling it. I probably have to roll at disadvantage and be like 2 rolls. And it'd be like, at some point, if I keep asking millionaires for money,
yeah,
I'm gonna hit the 20.
just shoot Elon Musk and probably the owner of Twitter now. I haven't looked. I refuse to. Just send him a DM and be like, hey man, can I have $1 million? And then you just see what happens. Just shoot him on DMs and then you just move on to the next one.
Okay, so we are talking today about decorum on tables and
being a good player.
How to be a good player, because we talked about how GMs can run their games better, how GMs can put together groups, and how GMs can
how to find a group even a little.
Yeah, how to find a group even a little bit, and how to like run a one shot to try to get people interested in games and yada yada yada. I just realized that my battery's running low again.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, at some point maybe in this episode my thing will go off again, and I won't have and so we'll have to go deal with that situation. Luckily I have another battery just waiting, so at some point if my screen goes dark, you know why. That being said, where was I? Brain malfunction.
We were talking about being a good player.
Being a good player, one of those things is keep engaged. Like, I think that's the thing I said at the last episode was be engaged, be there with the other players. Like, the really frustrating aspect of a game is when you play your character really well, and then you sort of like jump on your phone or stop paying attention to the other players.
Yeah, as mentioned last time, that it's kind of really shitty to have like your Hamlet soliloquy moment where you finally get revenge for your father, and then like cool, someone now has to like do their own thing, and you're just like, I don't care. I did my thing. I don't care. You're doing
Yeah.
your thing.
I don't. Yeah, that's like, come on, like, come on.
What the fuck? It's like it especially is terrible if like the other players were like instrumental in you actually getting your big moment to pop off.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's just it's kind of, don't be a dick.
Yeah, like that's just like really neat. Like at that point, just go home and like open up a Google Doc and write a novel.
Yeah, like, this is, it might be TTRPG, but like at least would be respectful to each other. At least, listen to each other, because like it's not just your story. Like, there's so many players that are like, it's me, 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 and it's like,
Yeah.
look, it's a table, it's a game, we're
This is
playing
the
with
team.
friends.
This is a team sport.
Yeah, like, just because you're not the main character right now, that doesn't mean that you should just sort of ignore the other players.
Yeah.
And some people make the argument and be like, well, I'm not trying to meta. I'm like, look,
That's not meta.
yeah, well, they don't want to learn information that could be used later, and I'm just like, but you're just being a dick.
Yeah,
like they deserve your attention. They deserve to be celebrated for their scene and their moment and their thing. When they do something cool, you want to be there in the moment when they do that, the cool thing, so you can say, hey, great, you did a cool thing, that's so amazing.
So this brings me to a good tip to help being a good player. Take notes. Like take notes of like specifically like stuff your character has heard of or knows, or like specific. Like I know you always hear like, oh yeah, we take notes during the game. Like, well, no one ever really goes into detail of like what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so like, the most important part is like I'm taking, like, if my character's in the room while something's happening, I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
But like if my character is not in like they didn't go, like I have a character who like he has a problem with organized religion, so he like sits in like the lobby of this church while like our cleric player went in and talked with like the minister, and like the rest of the party went, like I was like, obviously, like, that could really have quickly turned into a whole like, oh, it's what my character would do excuse for me being a dickbag.
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, like I didn't just sit there and like, oh, let's just cut back to me real quick being a jerk to all the other people. Like he just sat there making like a grumpy face and staring at people till they left him alone.
Yeah.
And then later I did come into the room, and like then I started taking notes again of like, okay, cool, like my character is actually hearing this.
Yeah. And notes are great also at the end of the game when you can say roses and thorns, because it's like a good thing for you to be able to celebrate other players if you do roses and thorns at the end of the game, which is a really good way to like celebrate and to like and say and to be clear about things that you just weren't happy about in the game. Like,
Yeah.
I know some people are kind of uncomfortable about that opinion, but like it's great because like at least if you don't want to do thorns and say roses and celebrate all the other players, which is great, you can say like and taking those notes and like and celebrating something someone you didn't think you caught, like they did something super subtle but it was like super cool, like great. That's great. That makes people feel good because it shows that you paid attention to that little subtle detail about something they're doing.
It does. Like it feels really good to be able to like have that to go back to as well.
Mm-hmm.
That like what like later on, especially like when like when something is going off with a character and like you are in the room, so you're able to like quick look back in the notes and you're like, oh, my character does know this, so I can talk about that. So like, is it like it's not metagaming for you to just like take down information that your character would know?
Yeah, 100%. If you're gonna use your phone, like there's some blocking apps that are really good to have on your thing, like that will block off like your most distracting apps. Like there's Block Site or something like that, or there's apps that will like detox your phone. I don't know if there's still some out there. Some don't function, but there are still detox apps that are great that you can just turn on for like 3 or 4 hours of your game to like, so that you can't open Twitter while you're at your table.
Yeah.
So you can't open this while you're at your table. And that's okay. Like it's okay to like shut off a couple of apps so that you can't have access to them, because those are great. Like I used to use app detox. I don't think it works anymore on my Android, so I had to find something new. But it was a great tool because it was like I could just be like, okay, for these 4 hours, I can't look at Twitter, I can't look at Tumblr, I can't look at certain things, because it just like it makes it easier for me as a player. And that's a really nice thing, because like even if you're using your phone to say look at your character sheet, because I know I have my when I was playing D&D, my 5e character sheet was on my phone.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to avoid in a world where we have a digital tool set for just about every major game. Like it's hard to not use your phone. And I'll even go to bat for it. Like having a phone is one of the most powerful tools for an RPG player to have, because that's every PDF you own can just sit on your phone, because most phones have like stupidly high storage values now.
Yeah. And there are things you want to look up on the game, which is great, because you can be like, oh, like I don't what's that? How does that power work again? How does that thing work again? Oh, what do I have to roll for that?
Yeah.
Like you can you can plan your move, because you know you're going to use it soon. So you're like,
and you could just, there it is right there. Like it's just, you have like a search function. And I mean, even going back to what you said about detox apps, like even just like do not disturb mode.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like keep stuff from pouring into you. So like, yeah, you can't go check, but like, I don't know, maybe someone tagging you on Twitter is like enough to break your immersion.
Yeah. And that's the I know that like we're so connected to the internet, and like, hey, I'm not trying to be one of those old grandpas that's like, don't look at your phone, youngin. But there's a part of you that just like it's just proper decorum to keep paying attention to the people on your table, to be present in the moment in the game. We're only playing for a couple of hours. People are putting aside time for this. And maybe that's not important, maybe to you. Maybe you have like tons of time and you're just like, I'm free all the time and I don't really need. But some people on the table, this is their social circle. This is their only so for I've been in situations where this is their only social circle. Like they have a kid, they have a wife at home, and they're happy just being a happy family person. And
this is their poker night with the boys.
This is their poker night with the boys. This is their time. So like when you're not even just like listening to them and their play, it's kind of like, dude, like this person's putting aside a lot of time. This is not for like, I myself am a person that doesn't have time, and I have 2 jobs. I work 60 something hours a week, and I game design when I'm free. And somewhere in there, I get to be part of a game or two. And when I'm part of those games, I'm there and I'm 100% there. So like, I want the other people on the table to be there as well. And it's the frustrating thing to me is when I see that, like, it can be frustrating to be like, okay, so it's just about you. Like if that's the feeling, like it's just about you, not about any of the other players. And that's not nice.
So that brings me to my next tip, or actually I've got 2, one for a GM and one for a player. We'll start with the GM one. Remember that, some people in school kind of needed to fidget with something in order to pay attention. So if you have a player that's doodling or, kind of futzing with something, or they're not like eye contact doesn't immediately mean attention. It's like you just because someone's not looking directly at you doesn't mean they're not listening.
Yeah.
There's any number of times, probably, you probably have a friend or two in school viewer and that was like, if I'm not like doodling or like kind of munching on something, I can't really focus all that well. That's fine. Like, as long as you can kind of like tell that that's a thing. Like when it comes time for another player to interact, they just immediately stop what they're doing and they're able to interact with full like coherency in the situation.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like just, if it bothers you, maybe talk to them, kind of get on the same page,
Understand where they're coming from. Some people
Yeah.
have ADHD, or they have other issue or other reasons that they need to like find some way to distract themselves, or not distract themselves, but to keep themselves focused. And
Yeah.
like and that does make sense. Like there are a number of ways to do things, and there's and at the end of the day, it just comes down to, hey, communicate.
Yep. The other tip, this one's for players. This one I actually give to a lot of people, especially like new players or players that are like they're trying to step up their game a little bit, because like, yeah, I've been playing for a year now and I want to get better. Note taking, we mentioned it before, it's a big part, but it's also like a good step to kind of bring yourself up to that next level. And note taking, we weren't specifically taught how to take good notes. We were taught how to take notes in one way in school. And honestly, that doesn't work sometimes. Like some people just don't take notes in school and still pass. So maybe taking notes, like in this situation, you need to learn or develop that skill on your own, or even like go look at other ways to do it. Like the best opportunity is, like that I always tell people, is to store information that your character would know in a way that makes sense to you, and in a way that you're able to reference stuff quickly. And honestly, I've run into plenty of people who are like, yeah, the way they taught us to take notes in school is fine. Like that works for you. That's great. But if there's people that like, oh, school note taking style, like, American education system doesn't work for me. It never has and it never will. Cool. Make your own way. 100%.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like that note taking can be such a great tool. But it is like, it's a good way to just keep track of some things. And I had always, as a GM, I admire note takers on the table, because it's like, oh great, you're wanting to remember things. Like I have a great memory and I don't usually take notes myself.
Yeah.
But that's just because that's one thing I've always inherently had, and I always understand this. So I'm like, I don't really take notes, but like, I do miss things. Like sometimes I miss a memory. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. And when someone goes back and says, oh yeah, you did that in the character, and I'm like, oh really? Oh yeah, I did do that.
Like we're doing a murder mystery, and it actually has been super helpful to take notes, because we actually keep forgetting like little bits of evidence, because like stuff was related to the moon, and like we have it like written down as like, okay, this person died at this day, because we keep asking like, wait, who died first? And that, like, it was super important to just like go through and make sure.
Yeah, 100%. Other than notes, the third thing that I would say is a good thing is to learn about the other players. It's a weird thing, like, because we're always so ingrained on just playing the game, but like some players have eccentricities and uniqueness about themselves that, like, if you're aware of it, then it makes it easier to play with them. Like we sometimes don't take the moment to try to get to know the players in the game that we're playing, and because we think, okay, we just have to be characters, and that's like that's good. But if you don't know that, like, your character, the other player isn't very good at speaking up for themselves, sometimes it's nice to be the one to help speak up for them, like, or help them in that situation, or back them up when they feel like, when they do speak up for themselves, like knowing that they're speaking up for themselves when they normally don't speak up for themselves. It's like, oh yes, you should back them up on this moment.
Like, just be like, absolutely, like agree with them.
Yeah, like I agree with this person, like, or if they're speaking up for themselves, and then you notice it, and just kind of get in the shuffle. It was like, and then you have to try to like help push them forward, and you have to like help give them their moment and spotlight, or whatever it is. It's important to get to know the other players. Some players there's so many different types of players on tables. And you'll have the players that aren't very good at coming up with stuff on the spot, So so if you want to help those players, it's really good to give them like to help allow the, for as GMs, it's always good to like maybe you can give them a hint and like where things are gonna go so they can kind of like plan a little bit so they can plan what they're gonna say. Like
Yeah.
if you know full well that you're gonna have a scene with a guard later and you're
Mhm.
not a person that thinks very well on the spot, then maybe just go, hey, so we're gonna do a scene with this guard in a little bit, but I'm gonna jump over to this scene. So just think about how you want to approach it. And that makes it easier for that player who doesn't really know how to like come up with stuff on the spot. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about this. And I'm like, great. That makes it easier for them.
Yeah. Like you got to learn to like meet people halfway.
Yeah, and learning people is very important. And
Mhm.
don't just say that the game is it and that's all we do. Like it's good to know the people around you, and you get to know
Yeah.
go to know some of their buttons and good to know some of what they really like in play so that you can help play with them in my
Yeah, like
batteries.
if I'm gonna be in a room with like 4 to 6 people for 4 hours every week as a way to relax, I'm gonna become friends with those people.
My camera is now off because my battery
Aha.
was like flashing at me going, hey, change the battery. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
so I need to get a second battery. I need to get a third battery because then I can just switch between multiple things. But so
Yeah.
um this is a learning curve for all of me and Jordan
It
because
it
we're
is. We're learning and practicing new techniques as we go, which is important. Is important. Kind of keep learning as you go because that makes you better.
yeah. And I good. Back up and running. I was like, I need to I need to update the battery aspects of my stuff, but
Mhm.
this should get me to release this episode. What I'll probably do is end up getting like 5 batteries and then just change them out between everything, and then I'll have to have multi. Like for some reason, my camera is not charging while it's plugged in. Like
Hmm.
it's weird.
That
And
is weird.
actually, I looked it up. It's actually a problem for this camera. So I was
Oh,
like, gosh darn it! It
that is interesting. Actually, that's always fun when you find like a glaring design issue with the camera.
Yeah, you're like, darn, great,
Yeah.
thank you, camera. But yeah, so yeah, this is still like a learning curve for both of us. Like
Yeah.
whether I'm learning editing right now, so it's like that's like we're doing a lot of these episodes sort of in advance, so because like it's gonna take as I'm starting to go through editing and learning how to do audio things, and it's like
Hmm.
I have not been a person that knows how to do a lot of this stuff, so I'm using stuff. So
I
or
have like very rudimentary like 1 day of class knowledge given to me by my friend, kind of knowledge on this stuff.
yeah, I mean it looks nice because we have the little frames on the screen and it's all done. Who the person who designed this was a friend of yours, right, Jordan?
Yes, this was Caitlin Marie, which you can find her on Twitter at, because I'm terrible and don't remember people's things.
Yeah, I was like, let's plug this right now.
Yeah, we did pay her. We did pay her absolutely.
100%. Like the thing for Unnamed Game Co. and Jordan knows this full well, is that
Yes.
we will like I sold my soul to the corporate machine. So I'm always gonna pay the fair market value to people. Like I think that's will be a discussion some point in the future about paying people. But yeah, for us at the end, for us in Unnamed Game Co, we pay and we never I don't negotiate. Like
That's true.
if your fee is $50, we will pay $50. And I know sometimes people will be like, I'm just gonna charge you 40 because it's a discount. And I'll just be like, you want 60, so I'm gonna pay you 60. Like you get paid what you deserve to be what you think you deserve to be paid, because at the end of the day, if you don't feel if you feel like you took a cut to work with us, then maybe you're gonna feel that, like, oh man, I don't want you to feel like, oh well, we didn't, at least for us, I don't want you to feel like, you didn't, I'm not saying you would give us the lesser of yourself, but I want you to feel the best you can when you finish the project. So that's also being monetarily compensated to your best value. And I think that standing your ground is really important in this industry.
True. Speaking of, my friend is at Caitlin Marie. That's Caitlin with a KAITLYN MAREE_.
Yeah, we will have that in the link below.
Very, very, very cool, interesting creator. Does a lot of work with a lot of things. Also models. So if you liked their work and want to support them, hit their link tree.
Do you think we could model? Let's do our best model pose. Okay, that's the best we can do. If you're an agent out there who wants to hire us as models, just look at this.
Just look at the camera and think murder.
Murder. Anyways, yeah, so that's a philosophy that we run in our company. I don't negotiate. So if an artist tells me that it's going to be $600 for this piece of art, and I can't afford that, I'm not going to try to be like, can you do it for $100?
Yeah,
I'm just going to be like, cool, $600 is what you want. And I have to say, if the valuation is, that's what I think that I'm willing to pay for what you can do. Like if I don't think it's a reasonable dollar figure, I'll just be like, I'm gonna have to pass. And I don't want to negotiate because like I don't, and I know they'll start to come back like, I'll do it for $300, I'll do it for $200. And I just be like, but you'll also feel like you're cutting yourself down to meet my level. And then there's gonna come, and I've had the situation where it happens where someone like will come down like half their price, right? And then they'll say, and then it'll not be nearly as good as the product. And then you'll say to you, and then you'll be like, and I'll be like, but it's not as good as your well, that's a $600 project. And I was like,
that's fair.
But that's fair, but you did negotiate down to this level. I thought I'm getting that level for this value. And then you feel like a little hurt because like, okay, well then
cheated or like, yeah, and it creates like a bad vibe, which is not something you want to do with anyone you creatively work with.
Yeah, no, it's not. And that's why I just go, I'm not negotiating. Your price is your price. It's great because you can say like, oh, and then some artists out there would be like, no, I would never lower my quality down. And I'm like, but some artists would. Like if they're not getting paid their value, they don't get paid their value, and you lower the price down just to like get the job. You might, like some artists would lower down the quality because they're not getting paid what they think they deserve for the amount of work they're doing. And the client is either going to be upset or the artist is going to be upset that they're doing a big project for less money. Like, and it never is good anywhere around. If you feel you deserve this much money for the work you do, and that'll make you happy with because what we do is you should pay people market value.
It's important.
That's my view. That's the soapbox I stand on. Like I will and I've had people negotiate with me, and I'm just like, I don't negotiate. Like if I really like your work and I want to come back to it, I'll come back when I have the budget to be able to pay for you at your level and not an inch below it. Like we are gonna like, and I know sometimes you just have to let go of a project. You just have to be like, and sometimes I've seen art where I just go, that's just too high, and I don't think that's worth $500 or $2,000.
Right, which is a fair association. Like if you don't think something is worth your money, don't waste their time by being like, hello, like I like don't go out of the way to be like, you should be charging more.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, like they have their reason for charging that much. Maybe they're just underselling themselves. Cool, but that's for them to figure out.
Yeah, like, and it's not like you're taking advantage by saying like, okay, I'll take the deal. Like it's great art. Maybe it's not that. Maybe maybe it's a hobby for them, and this is some extra money, and they like to do this for fun. But one of the
it's not your business.
One of the things, and I'll just one of the things you have to I know we've completely derailed ourselves from that original discussion we're having, but at this stage, this podcast just kind of goes wherever it wants to go.
Sure does.
Yeah, it does. One of the things that's important, and I know how we're going to market this episode. It's just episode whatever, and you're just going to have to deal with it. No, like let's have a serious discussion about this. One of the things you have when you're discussing art with or discussing working with another creative, you have to go through the portfolios first of all before you decide, like, okay, this is how I approach everything. When I talk to someone, I say, let me look at your portfolios, and if they don't have portfolios, let me see other work you've done, because that gives you an indicator of the quality of work that they're doing. And if you don't like what they do, then you just go, cool. Like, if that doesn't fit your vision or what you're working with, that's fine. Just say like, hey, no, thank you. It's not what I'm looking for. It's okay to say that to somebody. It's just not what I'm looking for. It's not an insult. Everybody has a different style. And sometimes they'll come back and be like, I can be whatever you want me to be. That's not true. Artists, there's a signature to our capability that we can understand that if you're a true creative, there's things you do really, really well, and there's things you don't do really, really well. And if you're I can do anything artist, that means you don't do anything really well, in my viewpoint.
Right.
Like, I can write a lot. Like, if people ask me if they hired me as a writer and they said, what do you write? And I was like, I can write anything. But if you're going to hire me as a writer, I'm good at writing poetry and I'm good at writing mechanics. Don't hire me to write your world building, because I'm not going to be nearly as good.
Sure.
Yeah. So I understand this.
I'm still trying to figure out where my strength lies in that, and like where am I as a writer? I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'm also trying to make sure I have enough money to keep my roof over my head.
Yeah. And then that's the second thing you do. The second thing after you look at their portfolio, and if you still want to move forward with this person as this artist or this writer, this work or whatever it is, then the second thing you do is you say, how much are you charging? Get the money stuff out of the way. Like, a lot of people negotiate, like, talk about their project first, and then they just kind of go like, how much do you typically charge? And if it's like, well, I need to know what your project is, then you can kind of give them enough idea of what you're looking for. I'm looking for be very clear. Like, I'm looking for 6 pages full color. I'm looking for about 20,000 words. If you don't know the scope of your work, don't approach creatives. Like, if you don't know the scope of what you're looking to build, like, testing the waters I'm sorry to say, it's annoying to test the waters. Like, it is an annoying thing to test the waters, because, like, if you're not ready to pull the trigger on a project, it is a very annoying. If you're nowhere near, if you're just trying to get quotes because you kind of want to get an idea, like, go find a friend who's an artist and then ask them, like, hey, how much do you think this generally might cost in the market? And then add money on top of that if you're trying to plan for a Kickstarter. But if you're going to put like a thing out to a bunch of people and then just be like, I just need to know how much you're going to, if you're sincerely going to hire this artist though, after the Kickstarter kicks off, then know the price. Like, that's what you're doing. Like, that makes sense. Like, you want to know how much they charge so you can fund that into your Kickstarter. But if you're just trying to find out how much prices are in the market and you don't really necessarily want to hire this specific artist, it's an annoying thing.
It can be. Like, I've definitely, like, there's plenty of artists that I work with and I follow them and I keep tabs on them, because at some point I'm going to have the money, and I keep seeing their work either get better, or maybe they're just like, this is me being lazy and like posting something and it's still like incredible, and I'm like, I'd still pay $50 for like a sketch you just did.
And honestly, like, it's important to just if you're doing a project, be serious about it, because being wishy-washy about the project, if you're going to sincerely hire a person for your Kickstarter, like, this is going to be my artist for this project, then that's a different story.
Like, if you're just know what you want.
But if you're just messaging them because I just want to know how much they charge, but I don't really want to buy anything, so annoying.
Yeah, like even just that typical message of just, hey, do you have a commission sheet I could look at, or like a link to your post? And 90% of the time it's in their pin, so you don't even have to send that message. You can just pull that up, like that tweet, or comment, screenshot it, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, but only really you shouldn't be approaching people unless you have sincerity to try to go forward on a project.
yeah, sincerity and certainty will get your project through.
Yeah, because that just also makes you look really bad if you're just like, you see so many people that don't understand how to deal with artists and the artists and writers, and the reality is, know what you're looking for before you even start. Like, you need to know that I want 20,000 words, or you need to know that I'm looking for, if you message us and I say I'm looking for writers, I'm telling you I'm looking for 1,500 words and I'm looking for this. And people will be like,
Yeah.
cool. And I've hired writers. Because I need extra writers for some, because I can't write that much. Or I needed an artist, and I'll say, like, this is what I'm looking for. And it's cool. But I was ready to pull the trigger. I wasn't like, oh, I'm messaging you for funsies.
Like full clarity, I'm one of those people that Gilbert has hired. He came to me with a very clear list of, like, here's what I want, here's what I'm looking to have you do. Like, we'll touch base in a week to see like what you've done. Here's access to the document. Like, I want X, Y, and Z. Let's see where we go from here.
Yeah.
Like,
and here's what I'm paying. And then it was that, and it's like, okay, cool. And then if that was not okay with Jordan, I would have been like, okay, cool.
That was it.
And
Gilbert was very accommodating.
Yeah. And if he came back with like, I need more, I'd look at my budget and go, I just can't afford it. Or I'd say, yes, I can afford it.
Which did happen once.
Yeah.
It did happen once. And again,
where it was out of the scope of like what we're doing. Like, I can make like, and that's why I approach things as like a business as well. But to be clear, like, this is a business for some people, this is a business for artists, and this is how people make money, and being respectful of that is understandable. Like, but my one tip for people is, if you don't know what the artist is good at, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of artists that are just copying things off of the internet. And if their portfolio doesn't have like a clear, this is what I do, you should be very careful. Be very, very, very careful, because there's a lot of artists that just go, there's a lot of people who claim to be artists. And what they'll do is they'll go on like a bunch of like on the internet, download a bunch of pictures from other artists, put it in a portfolio and say, this is my portfolio, even they can't do this work. And so people will like hire them, and they'll charge you a bunch of money because they'll say, look, like, I'm really good, but clearly a portfolio that doesn't have a clear line perspective of what they do shows you that might not be legitimate.
Yeah. And like having like, I guess the word would be like style literacy, like being able to look at an artist and being able to track like these two things don't match up, or like you can see them drawing in another style, but like it still very clearly belongs to them.
Yeah,
like
there's some things that like, yeah, this might be more photorealism, but you can tell sort of like their shadowing, their shading is very similar in both. Or there's a very like, they don't do like how they draw their lines, like oh, their lines are very like smooth. Well, this one looks very jagged. And like, if you see,
so you're like, what's happening?
Like, yeah, if they're like, hiding style is like, there's just, it's hard to do. Like, we are artists. Like, if you're an artist, you have a perspective, you have a capability, you have a natural. Like, yes, we can do other things. I can write world building. I can do things outside of my perspective. But to be very clear, like, I know what I do well, and I can't hide like my usage of words and my structuring of sentences in certain ways. Like, how I write is how I write. It's my signature. And like, it's not the same as how Jordan writes, or how, it's different. And I that's the way it is. So be very careful, because I've been scammed. I think that's the one thing you don't want to be scammed. Like I hired
Nobody.
somebody because they were like maps and they can do maps. And I said, cool. And I said, I'll pay you. They wanted this much money. And I said, cool, I'll pay. And I made terms because like after a certain level of money, I said,
Yeah,
look,
you want to like
yeah,
you want to have like like cool, like I'll come back to you in a week, show me what you've done so far, and then we'll discuss like when I'll get you your payment,
yeah. I
because that's a
actually,
lot of money to just throw out.
yeah, one of the things I actually negotiate is an exit clause, which is like, look, I'll pay you a third now and for the draft. So when you give me back the draft, if I don't like the draft, you don't have to give it to me. I don't get to keep it. But if I don't like it, I'm out.
Yeah, which is I think is reasonable and fair. Like as long as they're not sending you like
don't send me don't do the completed. Give me a draft. Give me like an idea of what it's going to look like. And there was an artist once that asked me that charged me, like he said, oh, I was trying to put together a thing. And I thought there was some things in the portfolio that was like a red flag for me, but I said there was enough things in there that looked pretty close to the through line of what I was looking for. And so I said, okay, cool, I'll go forward with you on this. And then I said, but they were asking for $300. I'll be frank. And this is how much they wanted for this map. And I said,
yeah.
Okay, like I can see some of like the color choices. And I said, maybe this would work. I kind of told him like I'm looking for this and was very clear about what I'm trying to do. I even gave a sketched out map of what I wanted and I put it forward. So they sent me a draft and I said, and I negotiated it. I'll give you the first, I gave him $100 and I said, here's $100. And if the draft doesn't work, I get to leave. Like, and I don't want the draft. You can keep it. You can put your watermark on it. I don't want it. Like, I don't, it's good.
Yeah, like you've already put an effort to create like half of something. Like
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, like I don't want
This is
to.
doesn't have. There's no full color here. There's no full finished design. I'm giving you, so that's to compensate you for the draft. That's the least I could do. But I don't want the draft because like it's clear I don't want it. So I said I get to leave if I don't want it, but you get to keep the money, no questions. And they said, cool, that's great. The draft came back and it was awful. It wasn't even close to anything that I wanted. And I just said, look, I'm gonna exercise the exit clause.
Yeah.
Good. And then they're like, well, can I have the rest of the money? And I was like, no, we had an agreement. I get to exit, you get to keep it. And they're like, that's not fair. And I'm like, that's exactly what we agreed to.
Yeah, like that's why we put in the exit clause, like which is fine. And I actually find that to be quite professional. Like if you're not getting what you wanted out of me, why should you pay? Like
but I'm not letting you walk away with not getting paid at all. Like at least we like the understanding was like, look, I'm not making you do work for free. Like you did your work. I'm not exiting off of this. I'm not paying an extra $200 for something that doesn't look good.
Yeah, like I've put in X amount of effort, so I get X amount of the agreed upon price.
Yeah.
And we're not going anywhere. Like,
yeah, and I'm not using this project for something else. I just don't want it. It doesn't work. And I lost out on $100. And yeah, unfortunately. But the second, and the last thing I'm going to say is red flag number 2 is if you say like, no, this isn't working for what your portfolio shows me. And then they start putting more pictures on the message to try to get you to try to figure out what you want. That's also a big red flag for my opinion. Like that's happened to me a couple times where you'll put it out there and then they'll just be like, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? And I'm just like, clearly that's a problem. But yeah,
it's very like it's very like telling because like we've heard any number of horror stories where someone will not pay or even worse gets a draft, goes, I don't like it but I'm gonna take it anyway, and then is like cool, you paid for half of it, got an unfinished piece, and you like shittily photoshopped it And then like now this artist is like, cool. They just kind of like tried to chintz me out of like, $400 when I was, like they're still very willing to do the work for you. You just don't want to pay.
Yeah.
So like, which kind of brings us back to that whole like, be certain and be sure and sincere when you reach out to an artist. Like, be financially ready. Like have that set aside. Like, yeah, I know life happens and stuff occurs and you might have to dip into that, but like, cool, it's nice to just have that like X amount of hundreds of dollars set aside to like do your 8 full pieces of color art and a map for your book. But also like, don't just be like, I don't want them colored now. Don't waste their time because you've changed your mind. Like, it's just so much.
It's an annoying. If you're not clear on what you're trying to get done, I get it. For some people, designing is a hobby and it's great, and you want to design a game, but approach it as a professional because you're dealing with professionals in this environment, which is know what you want. And there's so many stories about artists getting screwed over, and I hate those stories. Like, I hate them. So 100%, if you're ever working with the Unnamed Game Co., we will pay you fair. We will pay you what you ask, as long as that's what we're looking for, and we won't negotiate with you because that's not the way we play. It's either it works or not.
And I may be a little close to it, but I'll vouch for them. That's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and we'll treat with respect. We know exactly what we're looking for, and it's not a question to ask. Anyways, my camera went out about 5 minutes ago, so I've been sitting here in the dark because this month I'm the one who has the issues with my video, and strangely, Jordan's internet connection has been holding up really well. It's starting to be a little bit, so maybe we'll just cut off here on the 4th episode of the month, and we'll pick up on the 5th episode later. But if you are if you're an artist out there, I would recommend finding terms that work for you to make sure you get paid for drafts. And it's nothing. Someone who says like, I'm not willing to put down even a down payment on something is kind of crappy. There are ways to escrow it a little bit. I think there are ways to escrow where you can put like $20 in the account, and then you can be like, once it's like it shoots off, then you get your money or whatever it is, so that money is there. I don't know, but I have to look at that. That being said, I am Gilbert S. with the Unnamed Game Co.
I am Jordan T. with Zone Fighter Games.
And I accidentally unplugged my headphones. This has been the Unnamed Podcast. Hope your at this stage, I hope your Labor Day is going to be great. Take care, everybody.
Stay gold, y'all.
Is that really the thing?
I'm making it the thing, and I'm gonna make it the thing because I like it. It's good, and I liked Toonami growing up as a kid.
Okay, fine. Stay gold.